The act of abridging is to shorten a piece of original work without losing the sense of the original. Without knowing it, everyone has abridged something in one form or another. Whether it be a story you've heard before, recalling a movie you've seen to someone else, or any other brand of explaining something to someone while leaving out some detail or another. The world of anime has long been at war with the act of abridging, through a number of means trying to keep its properties to themselves. Today's class session will look back at the very beginning of abridging in anime, the rise that they had on YouTube, and the current place abridging has in the modern landscape. I'm Summers with Bucket of Basics, and this is Abridging in Anime. Class is officially in session. When it comes to the very first abridged series to become mainstream, there's a slight bit of controversial thinking amongst the public. Many would point to Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, made by YouTuber and voice actor Little Karibo, seeing as it was the first to really grab a foothold with its audience, as well as be the most successful at the time. Others ask, does an abridged show need to be fan-made to be considered just that? Many of these fans would then argue that Cartoon Network's Space Ghost Coast to Coast would possibly fit the bill. Space Ghost Coast to Coast used a subverted talk show format hosted by the titular Space Ghost, as he interviews live-action guest stars, whom Space Ghost believes to be fellow superheroes, appearing on a monitor beside Space Ghost's desk. Another option would be the ADV film dub of Ghost Stories. The dub is infamous for the first-hand account the voice actors have given that the show was almost all ad-lib, and according to one of the show's writers, Stephen Foster, whoever showed up to the recording studio first for any given episode could improvise anything they wanted. Those that came in later had to build upon the tone and jokes established earlier. This led to a completely different show that the original was, with a ton of insane dialogue and crude humor, making it a completely different property entirely almost. Now back to Yu-Gi-Oh! And YouTube. This is the main bread and butter upon which most popular abridged series of the time were formed. Most projects started out as a small group or even singular person doing most of the lines for the shows, editing them to fit the dialogue they needed, and producing these fan-made abridged series. Many shows and groups gained some solid traction, but no one could anticipate the absolute force of nature that would soon come to fruition. With the core three of Lanny Bator, Kaiser Neko, and Takahata 101, all of whom had previous abridged content, writing, and voice acting experience, and perhaps most importantly, in Kaiser's case, clean, polished editing. This was the birth of Team 4-Star or TFS Abridged, and the beginning of Dragon Ball Z Abridged. While the first season may seem outdated now, according even to its own creators, for anyone who was there when the show first released, this was a fresh, funny, and downright awesome take on a series that at this point in time was slowly beginning to fade to the background as new hot properties were taking center stage in the shonen world. Now, is Dragon Ball Z Abridged the reason the show got new life in the anime world? Well, no, at least not entirely. But even the most staunch of DBZ defenders has to take the overwhelming positive response and popularity DBZ-A had into the equation of why, after so many years away, the franchise enjoyed a full resurgence in mainstream media and popularity. TFS would later go on to create a wildly fun and unique take on the Hellsing series, as well as Machina Abridged, telling the story of Final Fantasy VII, and then creating their very own original Hiffle series, creating new animation and stories following dead villains in the DBZ universe. As of today, there are over 300 abridged series of various anime and video game series, which can be found on the internet. These range in quality, tone, and how much of the source material they decide to use. While abridging is looked down upon by some in the anime profession, it is telling how much traction these fan-made parodies, so to speak, have gained through the past decade plus. Now, whether you agree with the practice of bridging or not, one just has to simply accept that they aren't going anywhere anytime soon. That's all for today's very short class session at Bakuda Basics. So if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more anime goodness in the future. Comment down below some of your favorite Abridged series you've come upon. I've been Summers with Bakuda Basics, and I'll see you the next time that class is in session.